Mike Downing of Bear Pop Comics. Happy Valentine's Day, and also Happy Black History Month. And with that being said, that is the reason why I have this feature up front. So we're going to look at Black History Month characters, comic characters, so to speak. I started out reading comics in the 70s when I was a kid. I want to say actually 73 is when I really got serious about it. It was a guy next door that had a massive comic collection, and he was older than me, but we used to talk and stuff, and he introduced himself to me, and he brought out a big old big crates of comics, boxes of comics. He even emptied out one of those portable record players from the 70s. He had just a cabinet. He had comics in that. It was comics galore, and to me, that was the biggest comic collection I have ever seen. But I had the pales in comparison to what my brother Dennis used to have. My brother Dennis had some really valuable comic books, stuff that now is worth thousands of dollars, because he got on probably more in the end of the Silver Age, like the early Fantastic Fours, going into the first appearance of Galactus, and even the first appearances of Black Panther, and then early 70s, he, got older, got into things, started working, and went into the Air Force, and he just dropped the comic book thing. But in the family, I picked it up. So what I'm showing you here, a lot of these books here, the two that are on far left and right, Luke Cage and Black Panther, I have an omnibus of these books. The reason being, I'm going to hunt for the actual issues, but these can get really pricey. But with these omnibuses of it, I can show it off for the day. So it's cool. So before we get to that, because I got to remove areas with that, we're going to get to some other heroes. But these were staple-wise as far as me reading comic books. These were the first black superheroes that I knew of, that I was introduced to. Hold on, I'm just making a little adjustment on the lighting. Yeah, these are the first black superheroes I was introduced to, and rightfully so, because they came out in the 70s. There's another early black superhero that came out in the 70s, and this is well into my age. I don't have a single issue of her because I haven't picked up the new issues of this character, and I'm waiting to get to the trade paperback. But this is a trade paperback of the first run of the 70s run, 75 run of the X-Men. And I'm going to point out Storm, which was another really famous black character, comic character from that era. First black comic character on the X-Men. So, just going through this type of stuff, Storm was very prominent character in the X-Men with their elemental powers, and one of their heavy hitters, very powerful mutant. So it was cool. X-Men was pretty diverse because not only did they have Storm, but his character, they brought him back later on in another team, a descendant of his, but Thunderbird right there, which died in the first few issues of the beginning run, which was an Indian. But they were very diverse in their characters, and which we liked about the X-Men, because the X-Men really explored that when comic books at one time wasn't doing a whole lot of black characters. You would see them sprinkled here and there, but they were making their way in. So Storm, I definitely celebrate her for the Black History Month, which is real cool. Plus she had a cool costume, and it was drawn very nicely for kids reading comic books back then. Storm was no joke. She was a nice looking superhero, and I'm thankful that they created her. So now that we got on Storm, we're going to get into the middle. Now, I'm not going to go to the earlier Luke Cage yet. We're going to get into that. But the newer Luke Cage, You have Storm and Black Panther are together. Oh, special shout out to John the Comic Guy, because this is one of my purchases from, I believe, no, I think I did get this from him. Anyway, doesn't matter. I got the rest of them from him anyway. But Storm is involved in the Black Panther comic series because they have a relationship together, which is cool. And you see more Black Panther stuff. This is the modern Black Panther. It's the modern stuff here. And I have on the back of here, you have Storm looking very, very modern, very sexy here, with Black Panther and, well, no, that's Killmonger. So that's 3 black characters that are from back in the day, which I'll show you the first ad Killmonger. I like this upgrade of him, so this was an ultimate Black Panther. So continuing on with Black History Month, we, still are doing Black Panther for a little bit. I believe this is a younger version of T'Challa, I guess, and that's Storm. It has to be Storm in the background, So T'Challa basically has come through the ages, and you see different versions of him, which these are some fantastic drawn comic books here, and which is cool because, as you remember with the Black Panther movie, which did really, really well for Marvel, was, it kind of shows you that the African-American characters and also minority characters are a big thing, and it's not something that you would just like give them a couple lines and throw them away. They're definitely represented. And me being an African-American person myself, which y'all see my hand, I guess you can figure that out. And if you see my face, I couldn't go by this month and not celebrating this. So, and that's a different version of Storm in the X-Men. So she's transcended through time. I'm going to get that new graphic novel of her single series. I'm not going to rush to get the issues of her right now because I'm not running all over the place trying to find that stuff. It's just a little too hard, and I can probably get it on a Kindle. Now, this guy that we see in the center before us, that's Wesley Snipes, which is an actor. He's played a lot of different roles, but he's known for his action roles. He's actually, in real life, a very skilled martial artist. And if y'all remember him in Blade, I don't have any Blade comics. I do have a comic with Blade on there, but I don't have any Blade comics, unfortunately. That's all I'm going to catch up on. I sold a lot of them. But this was his own series. He teamed up with, I believe it was Whatnot, and it was called The Exiled. And, I got some issues of that. These are collector's items. So I have to get more of that. I'm probably going to get the graphic novel of this also. So we're continuing the celebration of Black. Oh, there we go. That's Blade right there. It's Blade on the cover of this Heroes Reborn. That's why I put it in there. So these are Black heroes. And we have some more coming. I've showed this before, but I'm going to recap it again. DC got into the arena of Afro-American heroes with Hardware, which is, I call him like he's Black Iron Man. I have this graphic novel on the other side, but I had to get these single issues. These I also got from John. And I want to stick with Hardware for a minute, but I'm going to slide over to another group of Black superheroes, Afro-American superheroes. Am I correct? Yes. Blood Syndicate, which is from the Milestone line. So the Milestone line, they cover the African-American superheroes. They have a lot of stuff, the DC line that they were running, and they had Black writers and artists, which was a big celebration. It came out in the 90s. So back to my man Hardware. You see different issues of them. So yeah, this is something for collectors just to really round out your superheroes. There were different nationalities of superheroes as time has went on. Like I can think of one in particular, which I don't have his novels or his trade paperback down here, but Shang-Chi, Master Kung Fu, which was an Asian character, and we have Misty Knight, which I left that upstairs in the Iron Fist series. So I'll probably pop a picture of her as I'm discussing it within the context of this. So there's more hardware, here. And while I'm going at that, is another issue of Blood Syndicate. So this these were very, very important in the 90s. I tell you, they loved this run. This was a very celebrated run, especially for DC, because DC, I like DC, but I always liked Marvel more. DC was a little late to the party with the African-American stuff, and the diverse heroes. Marvel had been experimenting with that a long, long time ago. But that's okay. I want to say Marvel did the first black superhero with Black Panther, because he came out actually in the Fantastic Four, which we'll get into that in a second. But here's another character that was big that I need to get more issues of, Static. And Static, they've been talking about giving him a movie for a long time. So I'm a fan of Static. And I have more hardware. Hardware's definitely cool. These are all purchases from John the Comic Guy. And we also have great covers of a great cover of Shadow Cabinet, which is also from the Milestones line, and ethnic superheroes. So, and this one here was an independent book. I got this from John, but this is called Guardian Line Alpha, and there's some African-American superheroes in this also. I'm going to get a good shot of this. Great artwork. So, yeah, these things I wanted to share with you guys. I want to dig into now. I'm at to hold these a little bit, because these books are heavy. But this was the Luke Cage run. Let's see. Let's open this up. I'm going to take the dust jacket off. It makes it easier to hold. But that's a recreation of the first issue of Luke Cage. So let's take this dust jacket off for a minute, because it's kind of slippery. I don't want to tear it though. I do like it. I'm taking a little time getting it off. Alright, here we go. So this is the Luke Cage Omnibus. And in this book, let me get a little closer, because this book shows me how to get my workout on. Luke Cage was originally called Hero for Hire. John actually has this first issue. I can't afford this first issue right now. This first issue is kind of pricey, but I would like to get it for my collection. But Hero for Hire, I remember reading the letter pages when this came out, and people got a little worked up with this book, because they said, okay, this is one of the early black superheroes, and now you have him doing it for money. So they eventually changed his name. Let's move this over, because I'm not gonna hold these heavy books up, these omnibus books. I'll be doing a workout and doing this at the same time. But it raised a little controversy, because they made him, people were like, had to pay for the services for Luke Cage, which was crazy, because it was the 70s, but at the time he was charging like $500 for a job. And it's funny to think about now, but he would risk life and limb for $500. Sometime it might have been $1,000, but But we loved it as a kid, you know, and it made sense to us because we used to say, well, do superheroes make any money? And it's funny, Marvel covered that a little later with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series, where I believe the Falcon was trying to help his sister out with the restaurant, and he thought that he could get a loan at the bank, and they knew him being popular with the Avengers, but you know, he didn't have any really collateral to get a loan. So maybe Luke Cage was right back in the day. But at any rate, you know, this is some of the great comics that I used to read as a kid. You know, some of this stuff I picked up way later, but I like the Heroes for Hire series, and I do agree with John. They have some excellent covers. Luke Cage always had great covers. The guys that worked on Luke Cage had some really good concepts of like just African-American hero and the settings to put him in, and you know, some really good stuff. So I'm trying to get to one of my favorite Luke Cage covers of all time. Let me pull this back. Sorry for the negative space, guys, but I got to do it this time. So I had it bookmarked, but I was moving around a lot, and here it is. So this is one of my favorite Luke Cage comic covers, and that was Cockroach, when he took on Cockroach. And I thought this was so cool, just the dramatic of the shooting him off the building. This book had got popular when the Luke Cage series was out, because they actually reenacted that scene where he came after Cockroach. Plus they upgraded Cockroach, but he came after him and he grabbed a bazooka and shot him, and which made that book jump up in value at the time. I remember I had the actual book and I flipped it on eBay for wow, I don't know how much. It wasn't thousands, but I got a nice amount for it. I got in maybe close to $100 for it or something like that. It was cool because I was selling a lot of books. But I want this issue again because this is my favorite cover, you know, and it just looks so cool like that. He's got this massive gun and he's shooting Luke Cage off the side of a building with some billboards, a billboard in the back, you know, which is dope. The whole thing is dope. So getting into Luke Cage covers, now I'm going to get into the dust jacket again. If you look on the back of here, as I pull in closer, these are some of the great artwork of Luke Cage. You know, a lot, and this omnibus contains all of that. But in the 70s, this guy was a huge deal. He was a big, and he still is a big deal to me. You know, so he was like, to me, I believe the second black superhero to come out that really did well, because the Black Panther was first. So all these great issues of Luke Cage, and it's funny, you see him on there and he's always in a perilous situation, but because of his bulletproof skin and his strength, he comes right out of it, you know. And this was another favorite character. Let me see if I can zoom in without opening this heavy book. Chemistro, the guy right there in the green. Yeah, let's get a little closer, adjust it, yeah. So, yeah, this is stuff I loved as a kid. I loved Luke Cage work. And growing up in the 70s, it was real important to have that representation, because it wasn't a lot of black superheroes around, but to have those type of characters like that in the midst of things going on, you know, it made you feel good. Then we had, you know, a lot of the action movies with the heroes like Shaft, you know, which was a detective. I won't say Superfly. Superfly was a criminal, but you know, we did like the movie. And last but not least, I'm going back into the Black Panther collection, which I'm gonna do the same thing here. So the first appearance of Black Panther was in let's see, Fantastic Four, and I do gotta open it up because we want to see this here. So in the first appearance of Black Panther, which you guys know out there in comic world, was the legendary Fantastic Four number 52. You know, and he's been doing this thing since then. And he was a supporting character, but then they bought him out to be a main character. So this was classic Black Panther in this book here. And I'm trying to get these omnibuses is very heavy, guys. And early shots of when he did things with the Avengers. Early issues of when he was with the Avengers, because he made a serious contribution to the Avengers, you know, where it just seemed weird not seeing him a part of the Avengers. And we have him in his single issues, which started out as Jungle Action. And here's good. I had this book too. I flipped this one too. I had this actual book. But Jungle Action was, that was the real Black Panther one. You know, these were stuff I used to read as a kid. This when books was 20 and 25 cents. So, you know, so, yes, that would conclude my walk through memory lane and representing also Black History Month. And it's a lot of new Black heroes that are coming out that I wanted to give honorable mention. Well, some I can't give you all honorable mention because it's so many of them now I can't name them. But there was also a Black Batman. I think it was called Batwing. I had that book, you know, and there's some other characters that are supporting that, you know, the color thing is not a big deal anymore. But it was very hard in the beginning for Afro-American superheroes because, you know, readers, I guess, just didn't draw to them because of, you know, the race lines and things of that nature. But I wanted to take a time on Black History Month to celebrate our Black heroes, you know, and just give them a shout out. And if anybody has any more that you can think of, please put it in the comments because I have more in here. This video will be really long if I go too much into it. And these omnibuses are not great things to hold in the air. They are extremely heavy. It's like holding a big dictionary. So this is Mike Downing of the Kickback Lounge and Bear Pop Comics. And I just want to tell you guys happy Valentine's Day and happy Black History Month. And keep collecting comics. KIC-BACK music.com